Good afternoon, invisible friends. Today is July 28th, 2025, and it's about 2 p.m. Central Time. My full name is Rinaldo Javier Aguiar Marcano, but I go by Rinaldo Aguiar. And this video is part of the series Bring Just Data to Justice, Bring Just Data to the US. And I'm recording this at my house at the 26714 Valley Side Drive, Katy, Texas, 77494. First of all, I want to kind of apologize for the long disconnect. It's been, let's say, a set of very interesting days, the last, I don't know, 7 days or so. I think I haven't recorded anything in a week. It's not because I didn't want to, it's because I've been preoccupied doing a lot of things that I need to do to be able to, let's say, to defend my interests, right, against these people. But I have a bunch of updates queued up, and I don't think I'm going to be able to deliver all of them in one session, so I'm going to probably do multiple sessions, but I want to take this session to do more legal updates, okay? Because obviously that's the last stage of the confrontation with them. After, when they have a target, like the first thing that they do is spy on the target, discredit the target, steal their intellectual property, right? Kidnap their child, attempt to kill them. And when everything fails, then it's a legal attack, like a lawfare. So that's the stage where we are at this point. And that's where ACME law, that's a satirical term I've developed in a way. So when I say ACME law, I'm referring to the Adams. So it's, I see that as a coalition of law firms. One is the firm of L.A. Klein in New York. The second one is Boris.com, the firm of David F. Hine. He's been attacking me, legally speaking, for years, like setting traps and ruses and things for many years. Then there's also Swal Legal, where Gillian Walsh and Michael Hughes worked or interacted. So there's 3 there. And then there is the law firm that Philip E. Denning uses to harass me from the HOA of Lake Point Estates. This firm, RMWBH, which I sent them. RMWBH, Demerico notice. So it's Robert, Markel, Weinberg. They used the same suspected CIA agent that tampered with my medication to deliver a legal notice sent by Phil Denning. Fourth, I could link all of them to the attempt on my life by tampering with my medication at Kroger. And the 5th law firm is the Adams Law Firm, that they have an office here in Cinco Ranch in La Centerra, near La Centerra shopping mall. And their office is marked Elon Musk's GeoWinds, the database of crimes Diosdado Cabello indirectly handed to me. A bunch of data points. And that's the law firm where Morgan Hybner works. Morgan Hybner being the front-end lawyer, because I don't think the strategies are coming from her. I think she's like the figurehead lawyer. She's put there to put the face, but the ones really creating these strategies is not her. That is obvious to me because of the way she speaks and the way she reasons. I can see that it's not coming from her. Anyhow, it has to be the 2 partners. Now, regarding the 2 partners, let me show you this. Yeah. So it is, yeah. So the 2 people, I think, right, are William K. Adams and Thomas A. Adams IV. So they're the owners or the partners, I don't know, of that law firm. And that would be the 5th law firm of this coalition of law firms, which I call ACME Law. And I call Aguilar, I don't know if, I think this is a universal theme. I don't know if you remember these cartoons. I watched them when I was a child. It was the Roadrunner. And then there's always the coyote that is trying to kill him or trap him. That was and then the coyote sets all these elaborate traps, but they always backfire. And that's pretty much what it feels like with these people at this point. I mean, with the Adams law firm. They allege that I'm not in use of my mental capacities, and then they send me to mediation, and then that backfires. And then the mediator, Mr. Perwin, who was a judge appointed by Greg Abbott before, he pretends that he's mediating, but he doesn't deliver the message to the other party. And then I talk to the other party, and this conversation happens to take place in front of a camera and gets recorded. And that party says that she never got the request that I relayed to her via the mediator in that mediation, exposing the mediator didn't really mediate anything. It was just a fraud, a legal fraud. So that backfired as well. And then I asked the judge to recuse himself. The judge declines and send it to Judge Brown. And then Judge Brown, of course, denies the motion and sends it back to this judge. And then at the same time, Adams law firm, these two men with the last name Adam, I don't know if they're brothers or father and son, I don't know, William Adams and Thomas Adams. Then they hide this clause in the proposed order. So they propose, this is the second time they propose an order to a judge asking a psychiatric evaluation of me, asking a judge to force me to undergo such an invasive procedure. And then that's where it gets interesting. Yeah, I think that backfired as well. And I already posted something about this as a text post, but let me show you. So it's here in the video. So this is the order that they proposed to the judge. So the way it works is that the lawyer who's filing the motion, they draft the order as if it was coming from the judge as a proposition. And if the judge reads it, and if the judge agrees, he would sign it, and then it would become an order. They created this order basically saying that I'm crazy, because all the things that I'm saying about Diosdado Cabello are, of course, illogical, because he's such a exemplary citizen. And then at the bottom of it, at the bottom, they hid this clause. I'm going to read it out loud so people can really grasp the sophistication of this. So it says, qualified protective order. It is ordered that all parties in this case, their counsel, the employees of their counsel, all experts and healthcare professionals, and their respective agents, the court, and all court personnel are prohibited from using or disclosing the protected health information of Gloria Espina and Reynaldo J. Aguiar Marcano, me, the person they are calling crazy for any purpose other than litigation or proceeding for which information was requested. It is further ordered that the health information, including all copies produced pursuant to this order, be either returned to the healthcare provider, which they control, that produced the records, or destroyed at the end of the litigation pending before this court. So not even if I wanted to appeal, I couldn't, because I had to destroy the records. The reason why they're putting this in there is that this is basically a gag order. It's a preemptive, it's a prior restraint. It's a form of censorship. So they're doing this so I cannot publish the book. Because in the book, I mentioned the lawyers, the court, the judges, the mediator, the Adams law firm, all the things that are evidence against them. So by doing this, they would basically gag me. They would basically make me so I cannot write anything about any of that. It's a form of censorship. Now, This is interesting because if you read this, it is talking about my own healthcare data. I'm a free individual, and even if I'm crazy, I should be able to disclose that I'm crazy. If I am, even if I am, like, under what authority can a court order me to not disclose my own information? If I want to disclose it, I should be able to disclose it. It's my information. But this is a family court that is supposed to care or to look after the interest of the child. The child is never mentioned in this clause, ever, in this order. This is not about the child. This is about censoring a book. This is what this is really about. But I think it was good because it let me see. It let me see the nuclear weapon they had prepared. So I'm glad that the Judge Brown, denied the motion to recuse Judges Telfair and Bell, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to see this. And now I know what is that they're afraid of. They're afraid of the book. That's what they're afraid of. And of course, what I did is that I published the book and I submitted it to the Library of Congress. And it's already published and it has its own ISBN number. And I'm going to give you the ISBN number. You can't censor something that has. I basically took that bond away from them by publishing it fast early before they could do anything. All that is already published. But I guess what I want to focus your attention on is the fact that this is a sham order. It's not for the best interest of the child. It's just an obvious attack on liberties that are in the Constitution. Free speech, freedom of belief. They want to suppress all that. They want to make it so I'm not able to even write a book. But I think it's very telling. It's very telling of who is controlling this and who is paying for all this. So that's on the Adams law firm. Yeah, so the Acme law is a term that it's a satirical term that I use to refer to this coalition of these 5 law firms that from different angles and in different ways have been attacking me, using the law and the institutions to attack a citizen that has done nothing to them. So of course I filed a motion in opposition to this barbarity because this order is really a monstrosity. Imagine for a second that the judge signs this order. Imagine the implications that would have on everybody. It would mean that basically, because what they're saying is that, so they're calling me crazy, but the only basis they have for that is that my former partner doesn't agree with what I believe. Say that I believe that Diosdado Cabello sent the 7 Venezuelan intelligence to spy on me and to try to kill me. Regardless whether you believe it or not, that's what I believe. Now, what they're saying is that I'm crazy for believing this. But if you accept that premise, that one parent can call the other parent crazy and question their mental abilities in a court of law based on what they believe, where does that stop? What would prevent a parent from asking another parent if they believe in God, for example? And when they say yes, then they will go to court and say that they're crazy because they believe on an entity that they can't see and that they can't prove that it even exists. That's the textbook definition of delusion. And I don't want to make this a religious topic, and I'm not saying that people that are religious are delusional. I'm religious. What I'm saying is that's the reason why there's freedom of belief and there's freedom of speech, because if those liberties didn't exist, then there would be no line and anybody could call anybody crazy. So I guess the point I made I'm not going to read it, but the link is on YouTube. I posted it. The point I'm making in that motion in opposition is that I'm exercising my freedom of speech and belief, and for them to challenge my mental capacity, they, according to the law, this is what the Texas law says, they have to show that my beliefs are putting in danger the child. And there's nothing, there hasn't been, in all these years I've known my former partner, I'm talking about 11 years, there hasn't been one incident in which, I don't know, my former partner called 911. Like, that never happened. I've never been violent. There's never been any kind of domestic violence disputes, nothing. There's nothing to justify this. So that's the problem they have, okay? The order doesn't comply with the requirements of the law. And the bar is very high, legally speaking, to order somebody to go to a psychiatric evaluation. Like, you have to have the burden of proof is very high for that, for this reason, to prevent the courts from becoming an arbiter on what's acceptable to think or to say. Anyhow, so they have that problem. Now, Acme Law is in this situation like the coyote, like the thing backfired. Now they don't know what to do with it. So they came up with a new plan. And this is a theory. I don't have a way to prove it, but it seems to me pretty odd. So this is what I think happened. And here I'm going to jump into something that happened this morning. I don't know if readers would recall, I posted a few days back, on Friday, I think was the last post. There's been a series of vehicles that appear at the preschool where my son goes, Marcelo. And these vehicles were tracking me ahead. This is documented. And they have one thing in common, is that the license plates have the trigram 955 in order or out of order. And what this means exactly from a technical point of view is explained in the website. I'm not going to repeat it to not make this session super long. But it's a super rare statistical anomaly that tells me that these plates are not random. This is intentional. There's a meaning behind that 955, okay? And I posted about this on Friday. So what happened was, yesterday, my former partner, she invites me to come with her today to the daycare to drop off Marcelo to the preschool, to drop him off at 8:30 because it was the first day of school. Like, he's starting a new school year and it's the first day, new teacher, new classroom. And I thought to myself, this is nice that she's inviting me. Like, she's never invited me. In fact, in many occasions, she has asked me not to go to the school. And the way she framed it in those occasions was that, like, I have this vehicle that is armored and it has all these cameras and it could make other parents uncomfortable. That's what she said. And because of that reason, I haven't gone to that school in a year that he's been there, because I don't want to make the parents uncomfortable. I didn't want to, because I thought maybe there's one or two spies, but now I'm realizing that pretty much a high percentage of the parents that are registered, that have kids in that school, are part of the network. I saw that on Friday because of the percentage of vehicles that had well-known bigrams in the license plates. So anyhow, she invites me to go this morning with her, and I thought to myself, well, maybe she's thinking things more clearly and understanding that we should work together for the benefit of the child, be on the same side, or at least in the things that we can be on the same side. So I went with her, okay? So when I get there, we drop off the child, no problem. Because this has already happened multiple times, that when I arrive there, I see an agent that seems like Eastern European or Russian with a car that is flagged. This has happened multiple times. Like, it's obvious to me at this point that that's a prime interception point for them. So I came with a pen and a piece of paper. So I didn't have to ask, like on Friday, which was what I did. I asked on Friday for a piece of paper and a pen at the reception to write down the plate, a couple of plates that I saw that were interesting to me. So today I brought my own pen and a piece of paper, and I had it in my pocket, okay? So we drop off the child, and as we're leaving, I get in the car, and I see on my left-hand side parked an SUV, a Tahoe, black Tahoe, that had the trigram again, 955, okay? It was out of order, but it had the 3 digits, and I saw it. And I thought, this probably, what are the chances? I'm a statistician. I can do the math, and I can tell you the chances of this being random, it's in the 1 in hundreds of millions. I mean that 3 vehicles in this preschool have license plates, Texas license plates specifically, that have the 3 digits 955. This is the probability of that happening is 1 in probably hundreds of millions, okay? In 3 consecutive days. So I see the car, but she's driving and I don't have the piece of paper out of my pocket, so I cannot write down the plate. As she's leaving and I think it's a good idea to show you the preschool, so I can tell you exactly, because there must be security cameras and maybe. So maybe there is a way to track this. But this thing I'm mentioning is important because I see 2 possibilities here, and either one of them is important. So that's why I'm saying it. And I'll elaborate more on what I mean by that in a second. So the preschool is this one over here. It's called the British Private Prep School, and it's located at 25935 Cinco Terras Drive, Katy, Texas 77494. My former partner parked the car exactly in this point, in front of this structure, right? In front of this arc. So this is where we were parked. And the black Tahoe SUV with the trigram 955 was parked around here. So diagonal towards the driver's side. If you want to see it in the map, the Tahoe SUV was parked here in this spot, 9904 minus 95.82733. Okay. So she drives away to exit on this side, and we pass right in front of the Tahoe, and I see the plate. When she's exiting the parking lot on this corner, I asked her, listen, could you do me a favor? I asked very politely. It's not like I became excited or anything. Like, I asked politely, could you do me a favor? It would take just 1 minute. And she said, yes. I said, please make a right on this corner. So what I wanted to do is to come back to get the plate number, because I know how rare trigrams are, and finding 4 of them, it would be like, it's easier to hit the lotto. Let me tell you that. So she says, yes. She turns around and she makes a right. And then she makes a right again, and we come again. And when we come here, the Tahoe is gone. And I'm not exaggerating. It must have been less than 30 seconds. The Tahoe was gone. It disappeared. And it didn't come out behind us because I would have seen it. So it must have come out on the other way, making a right turn here. Because if it had turned left, we would have seen it. We would have seen the Tahoe in this corner, and we didn't. So I think it went on this way towards Spring Green, okay, Spring Green Boulevard is what's in the other side of this. If you keep going, this major street here is a Spring Green Boulevard. So anyhow, as we're doing this, in this corner, another vehicle appeared. This time it was a white landscaper truck with a trailer attachment, and the trailer attachment had the plate with the prefix 955, the same trigram. This is even rarer, more rare, because this isn't the prefix. Like the first 3 characters were 955, which I think would only happen in Texas if it's a commercial vehicle or a trailer like that, because all personal license plates in Texas start with letters, with 3 letters. But this one started with the 3 digits, 955. So I think only like police cars or official vehicles or some commercial vehicles have sequences, numbers at the beginning. So now this is even more rare, because this would be the 5th vehicle I see in this preschool with this prefix. And then I note the plate down in the paper. When I do this, my former partner starts crying uncontrollably. Like she starts crying like she's having a crisis, like she's having a mental breakdown. That's the best way I can describe it. And I tell her, listen, you have to calm down. Nothing happened. We already dropped the child at the school like 10 minutes ago. Like it was only she and me in the car. I'm saying this because to make it clear that Marcelo was never in danger. And I'm saying this because I think all this was a ruse. I think this is so improbable. And I know they read and they see the videos that I post. So they cannot be that stupid to send 2 vehicles with the same trigram at a day that they know I'm going to be there. because they have all my house wired. They know that I'm going to go drop off Marcelo on the first day of school, because I've talked about this with my mom, with my former partner, multiple times before today. And all this happened today, this morning. So they knew I was coming. They knew I'm aware of the significance of the plates 955 with the 955 trigram in order or out of order. They would have to be stupid to send two of those vehicles in this exact moment. So I see two theories. One is that, because I know that from the scientific point of view, the significance of the statistical anomaly. I know these plates must signify very high prominence agents. So either this school is full of these very prominent agents, which would be concerning because it means that they're planning to do something, right? Because otherwise, why would they engage not one, not two, not three, but four very prominent, I believe could be Russian agents, because like, I've seen the face of at least two of them and they look Russian. They don't look Venezuelan for sure. So that would be concerning if, I mean, to me, for my own safety. So that I have to say. But I think what is more likely is that it was a ruse. Okay. And the way I see it playing out, and I'm saying this today is July 28, 2025, 2:22 p.m. If they do this, if this really plays out in the way I'm going to describe right now, at this point it hasn't. I checked before starting this meeting and I haven't received any legal notices. Okay. But if this is what they do, the Acme law firm, if this is what they do, it would prove many things. It would prove that they were listening to my conversations because they knew I was going to be at the school to make this ruse possible. It would prove that my former partner is working for them because she did this, she made this possible. And then it would prove as well that they're fabricating evidence for the court, for the trial, to justify the judge signing that crazy order. So this is what I think happened. I think it could have been a ruse. And the whole purpose of the ruse is to create this incident in which my former partner starts crying uncontrollably and has a mental breakdown. And then she would basically imagine, and I don't imagine, like she told me the other day, like I didn't mention this before, but so that day on the 23rd of July, when I went to court, it was a very short meeting with the judge because the meeting was like Morgan Hybner had scheduled this hearing with this judge that I had filed a motion to recuse against, knowing that. So she violated the Texas procedural code to harass me with this judge that there must be a reason why she wants this to be heard by this judge. She's very set on the judge, is what I'm trying to say. And knowing that she didn't have the right to schedule that hearing because there was a pending motion to recuse, and she did it anyways. That day, the day before, I was talking to my partner, and I told her, I made a comment, like she said something like she was stressed out about the next day, so the day we were supposed to go to court. And I told her, listen, nothing is going to happen tomorrow. And then she looked at me like, why are you saying that? And I didn't give her much details, but I said, listen, I filed a motion to recuse the judge because he sent me to mediation. At the same time, you're alleging that I'm crazy, and that put me in danger and an unacceptable level of financial danger and other kinds of danger. The whole purpose of that mediation was to sign a legally binding contract that would alter my parental rights with Marcelo. And you're saying that I'm crazy, and the judge is sending me to sign that contract unsupervised. If you're a judge, like that's the worst possible thing you can do to me as a judge, if I'm really crazy. So I told her, and the law says that nothing can be done in the case until the motion to recuse is resolved. There's no possible way that tomorrow is going to happen anything. That's what I told her. And then she replied with, oh, I have to. She said something to the effect, I'm trying to remember the exact word because I don't want to say something that is not accurate. She said something to the effect like, oh, but I'm supposed to say something in the court. And That comment stuck with me, and I tried to inquire, but what do you mean? What are you going to say in the court? She stopped talking, basically. Like she said, I'm not going to say anything. What I understood from that comment is that she had prepared with Morgan Hybner or with Tina Simon, because Morgan Hybner apparently was on vacation. And I know that because I sent her an email asking her about the hearing date because she hadn't sent me the notice. And 2 days before that hearing, so on the 21st, I sent her an email saying, listen, if you want me to go, you have to notify me. And I got an out of office auto reply from her that she was on vacation since the 16th to the 22nd. So I don't know how my former partner interacted with her because she was on vacation, but in some way, something happened. And she had prepared something to say to the court. I imagine sort of an affidavit delivered verbally, like she was going to say something to the court. Okay. I imagine to convey an emotional message that I'm crazy, that I'm affecting her. I don't know. I imagine because I mean, what else can she say? And the only question in that hearing was whether the judge would order a psychiatric evaluation or not. Anyhow, I'm saying all this because putting the pieces together, she told me already that she had planned to say something to the court. And then I go today to the preschool and they put these two cars with the 955 trigram in front of me, basically. There was no way I could not see those cars. And then I simply asked her to go around and get into the parking lot again so I could the plates. It wasn't like I was screaming or yelling or I became crazy, nothing. It was just a simple request, like drive around. I had my own pen and my own paper. I wasn't even asking her to provide me with a pen and paper. Anyhow, my theory on this is that the plan that they're going to do is that my former partner could produce an affidavit saying that I was so focused on the license plates that I made her drive in a dangerous way. And if the child had been in the car, the child could have been in danger. And that's how they are planning to make the leap from this censorship order that they have to the missing piece, which is the welfare of the child, because that's the only, how do I say this? From what I understand, I'm not a lawyer, but from what I understand, the only real authority of this court is about the welfare of the child. And as I said, in this proposed order, the welfare of the child is not mentioned anywhere. They have that's a critical piece that they are missing, and they can't do anything. They can. The judge can sign anything, as we saw with Judge Brown, but it would be obvious that it's that they're in concert. So for it to not be so obvious, they have to justify something. They have to give the judge something to work with. And I think the plan was to create this situation. And that's why my partner had that breakdown in the car for no reason, really, because all I asked her politely was to do me a favor and drive 1 extra minute. That doesn't justify in my book. It doesn't justify somebody breaking down like that because somebody wrote something in a piece of paper. I didn't say anything to her or anything. I just wrote silently a number in my piece of paper. And then we had this little debate. I told her, like, listen, freedom of expression, like freedom of speech. I'm free to write anything I want in a piece of paper. That cannot affect your mental state. That's not, it's not reasonable that you become decomposed mentally like that because somebody writes something in a piece of paper. That is not, doesn't seem rational to me. But anyhow, I don't blame her because I understand now that it's a play. It's just a way to justify the unjustifiable. But I wasn't driving the car, and the child wasn't even in the car. If the child had been in the car, I would have not even noted the license plate. Because I don't want him to be exposed to any of that. But it seems to me like it could be a play. But now, interestingly, if this happens, if they file this affidavit saying exactly this, I have no way to know this. I'm imprisoned here by them. So if that's really what they're doing, I think it would prove that they're fabricating evidence for this process for the benefit of Diosdado Cabello, because the only person that would benefit from that censorship clause would be Diosdado Cabello. Actually, uh, this is another interesting point. I was thinking about this. Say that they signed this, right, and they put this censorship clause. Like, I'm not a lawyer. Like, I would have to look and research to see how this would play out. But I imagine they can't censor the entire book based on this. I imagine what would happen is that I would have to remove the things that talk about the mental illness, which is what it's being disputed or argued in this matter. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that wouldn't make me remove things like the geo-index from the book. Because, unless I talk in the sessions about the geo-index and then they make that leap, it will be a crazy legal leap to say, oh, because you talked about it in the session with the psychiatrist, now you cannot publish it in the book. I think it's a stretch. If it really plays out by the book, I think what they could make me remove are the mentions about Morgan Hybner and the Adams law firm. But that would mean that they're really protecting themselves. They're not protecting even Diosdado Cabello, they're protecting themselves. The only people that would benefit from this censorship order would be Morgan Hybner and the two Adams that own the Adams law firm. Those would be the only people that would benefit, I think, because I could publish the rest of the book that has nothing to do with the healthcare provider.
William K. Adams is in the William K. Adams and Thomas A. Adams IV, by the way, were the lawyers on the divorce of my former partner from Salvador Mendez back on 2014. Mendez, I believe, is a fake identity of David Malero, a now prominent SEBIN agent of Diosdado Cabello.
So, and I think that is important. It's an important observation because I think that's worse, legally speaking, than protecting Diosdado Cabello. Because if they're protecting Diosdado Cabello with this censorship order, they're working for a foreign interest and for a drug trafficking organization. Yes, that's pretty serious. But if they're doing this to protect themselves, and they're using the courts and the judges to protect themselves personally from prosecution of crimes that they know they have committed, it's worse because it means it shows intentionality on the previous crimes and on the cover-up for their own benefit and to protect their own criminal enterprise. So I think it would be, legally speaking, worse if they're doing this to protect themselves than if they're doing it to protect Diosdado. But again, that's just I'm nobody. I'm not a lawyer. But intuitively, it seems to me that would be reasonable. It would be a reasonable conclusion. But anyhow, let's see what the Acme law firm does now with if they're going to file that potential affidavit, which I think is the plan, given what I saw with the plates today, which would be interesting because it would show that they're reading my website, they're watching my videos, and they're reacting to them. So to fabricate evidence for a sham process. I don't think it could backfire any worse than that. Okay. I think that's probably enough about the Adams law firm. So now I would like to talk a little bit about, we touched on Judge Brown a little bit, but I want to say verbally, I think it's obvious that if this judge was appointed by Greg Abbott, and I'm mentioning in my research and in my book, Greg Abbott, how can this be an impartial decision? It's impossible. Somebody who gave you your job and your power is being mentioned by this author, and you're deciding something that is life-changing for this author. That's the textbook definition of not being impartial or something, right? Anyhow, but that already happened. Another thing I noticed, and this is interesting. So now that we're talking about these legal topics, this is very interesting. So my former partner, when she divorced Salvador Mendez in 2014. And remember, there was information I received that Salvador Mendez and David Molero are really the same person. The judge that signed the divorce decree was from the 505 District Court, which is the same district court where David Berwin, the former judge, now mediator, that was suggested, strongly suggested, recommended by this court, 387, to mediate between my former partner and me. Mr. Berwin was appointed to that same court by Governor Greg Abbott around that time. Okay. And this was told to me directly by David Berwin. I'm not inferring anything. He told me this and it's recorded and it's posted on YouTube in the recording of that mediation session, which I had the right to post. Okay. It seemed to me like too many coincidences. Like the judge that signed the decree, the divorce decree with the fake identity, is from the same district court, 505. Now, this judge was called Judicial Officer Mullinex. That was the judge that signed the divorce between my former partner and Salvador Mendez, which I suspect is a fake identity. It's a person that doesn't exist. I'm not saying that the judge was complicit. I'm just stating a fact, okay? That she signed that decree order or that divorce for a person that probably doesn't exist. And she was at the time a judge at the 505 court. Now, interestingly, after that, she retired and she also has a mediation practice. So basically the same career progression of that David Berwin. Seems like it's too many commonalities. These two people had a career path that was pre-planned for both of them. Something else I want to mention on the legal side, two things that happened that day on the 23rd. And these are not accusations, these are just observations. And I'm gonna say this because I've learned through all this work that sometimes it is important to, there is a component to this work that it's about being able to read the situations, right? To read the room and to read the people. And this is a subjective observation, of course, because of the same nature of what I'm saying. But it's important because I don't want to say the biggest discoveries, but like some of the biggest discoveries I've made. For example, when I discovered that Penelope Suarez was trying to hurt me with the sweet that her mom supposedly made, I was able to see that because I was able to read the situation and read her face and her emotions and her comments, right? So there's two things strange that happen. I'm gonna say it that way. And it's not an accusation, but it's something very strange. Two things. One is, as I'm walking inside the court, I go through the front door and I intentionally left one person, and this is in the security cameras, I'm sure. If the FBI or any authorities ever look at this, please look at the footage and you will see that this played out exactly in the way I'm describing it now. So my former partner comes in first. She gave me a ride to the court, okay? Because I figured nothing is going to happen today, and like, why drive two cars? And she gave me a ride. So as we're approaching the door, I let her go first. And then there was a person coming behind me, and I took the opportunity, opened the door so this person could come in and stand between my former partner and myself. And I did this intentionally, okay? I wanted to see if I wanted to see how the officer at the checkpoint at the entrance would react to my former partner and me if we were not together, because this could give me data points. So she comes in first. There is a person in between us, and then there's me. Okay. My former partner goes through the metal detector first, and the police officer, that it's like a PSA checkpoint. It looks like that. They have an X-ray machine and the bins, and you put your belongings in the bin, and then you pass through the metal detector. So the police officer, when my former partner passes, the security guard, I don't know if that's the police officer, to be honest. I looked and I couldn't see his badge. He didn't have a name tag or anything. The uniform looked like a police uniform, but he didn't have a name tag or a badge or anything. So anyhow, when she passes, he looks through the bin and he picks up a phone, I think, something like this, but very quickly, and puts it back, and the bin goes through, and she's able to leave. Then the person in between us passes, and he doesn't really do much to her bin. Go ahead. Now it's my turn. Now, when I put my belongings in the bin, I did it in a very intentional way. Okay. So I was carrying a folder. I had a belt, a watch, and my keys. I put the keys at the bottom. I don't think I even have a cell phone with me. I didn't have a cell phone. So I put my keys at the bottom and I covered it with the belt and the folder. Okay. So the keys were underneath. But this is an X ray machine, and all of the other things were plastic. The only things that were metallic were the keys. So he could see the keys from the machine, I'm sure. As the bin comes out, he takes he takes everything apart in the bin like this with his hands, and he goes for the keys. And then he takes the keychain and he spreads all the keys flat on the bin. I don't know. It seemed unusual, and I was the only person he did this to. I saw and I watched after me and before me, and he didn't do this with anybody else but with me. And everybody had keys because everybody drove and have a house. And so anyhow, my read of this situation is that probably that device has a camera looking down, and they wanted to take a picture of the keys spread to see if I had a pen drive or a YubiKey or a GPS or an antenna, something in the keychain. So he needed to remove everything and spread the keys so this camera, this pinhole camera that is probably mounted on the equipment, could take a good picture of the keys spread out. That's my theory. It's just a theory, but it seemed an unusual treatment, particularly because the keys are made of metal, and he could see in the X-ray machine that there wasn't a knife or anything in the keys. So that was the first thing strange that happened today. The second thing was even more strange. So as the day the situation is unfolding, we go into one room, we come out. But before we go into the room, right before 9 a.m., there's a lot of people walking in that, we're in the third floor, in that hallway. And I'm walking back and forth. Morgan Hybner had emerged from her vacation at that point. So I was talking to my former partner before in a friendly manner, but Morgan Hybner emerged, and I, out of respect, I said, listen, I'm going to step away so you can talk to your lawyer. And I left as far as I could. There was no suspicion that I was eavesdropping on what they were talking or anything. So I left, and I started walking. They said it's a long hallway. I start walking on that hallway. I go to the other side, past the restrooms. And as I'm walking, I don't know if viewers would ever experience this, but it doesn't happen to me often, but it happens. That you have this feeling that somebody is looking at you intensely. You're not seeing them, but you feel like somebody's watching, like somebody is staring at you. Even if you're not directly in line of sight, you're not directly aware where this person is, but you have this feeling that somebody has their eyes on you with intensity. So I had this feeling in this moment. I turned around, and on my left, there was this woman. I'm going to describe her, sorry. She was probably mid 40s, African American, I think. Her skin was a little bit, my skin is dark. Her skin was a tiny bit darker than mine. I think she was African American by her features, like looking at her features. But she could be from another nationality. I don't know. She could be Indian. It could be anything. But if I have to describe her, she would look African American. She was maybe 5'7", 5'8", and she was looking, and she was very well dressed, very elegantly dressed. The hairdo, she was very well put together. And she's looking at me with intensity, but the way she was looking at me, and again, this is totally subjective. And it's not a crime. Like, it's not a crime to look at somebody, even if you are looking in a certain way. It's not a crime. But I'm describing what I saw and what I perceived of that situation. She was looking at me with such intensity, like if she hated me. That's the only way I could describe it. And when I turned around, we locked eyes. Like, I saw her I looked at her in the eye, and she looked at me. And she kept walking, like, like nothing happened, and I kept walking, right? I didn't know who this person was, and I have never seen this person in my life, and I have no. I thought maybe I did something or said something. I don't know, but I was alone. I don't. I didn't really know what I could have done to deserve that look. Is what that was my thought. Okay, so I kept walking on the hall, and in the hall, there are these portraits of the judges of the courts, and there's, I don't know, 6 portraits. I had nothing else to do. There was still like 5 minutes left. My former partner was talking to the lawyer. So I started basically pacing around, looking at the portraits of the judges and reading the names, like trying to do something useful, understand who's who in this court. I go through 2 of the judges. I saw Judge Bell, who is the one that maybe is about to sign that unjustifiable psychiatric evaluation order with the censorship clause hidden in it. And there's other judges. Judge Brown, I saw her photo in there. And then the 3rd photo I see, surprise, is this woman that I just saw 5 minutes ago looking at me as if she hated me. It's the same woman. She is a judge in that court. And I recognize her because this happened just 5 minutes before. Anyhow, that judge, I'm just saying this for reference, that judge that was looking at me in such intense way, let's put it that way, was, I believe, let me look it up again because I don't want to give any wrong information. Yeah, this lady. Yes. So that's the woman that was looking at me in that intense way in the hallway. And again, like, this can be verified in the cameras. I'm not making this up. Now, I mentioned this not so much because I feel offended by the look or anything, but what this, I cannot prove it, but the intuition, like what this, the only explanation I see is that these judges are talking about what's happening. And again, that's not a crime, but remember, this is supposed to be a simple, not even a divorce, because my former partner and I, we never married, legally speaking. This is supposed to be a very simple separation case between 2 people that, are non-important in the world in a suburban town of Katy, Texas. For what reasons these judges, who are prominent judiciary figures in the judiciary system of Texas, would be discussing Reynaldo Aguiar? I mean, for what grounds? For what? I think it's an interesting, it could be an interesting observation. Like, why are they talking about this with a judge that is not, because this is not the judge that decided on the motion to recuse. That was Judge Brown. I mean, this judge had nothing to do with this case. So where they're talking about this, if this case is, if I'm imagining all these things, I'm having delusions, and as Diosdado Cabello is saying, I think it's a direct contradiction to their narrative. That's why I'm mentioning that. Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit of something a bit technical and something that the informant told me. We exchanged some messages, and let me see. Yes. So one thing that I'm doing is that I think I mentioned this before. I bought a satellite internet via sat, and it was a whole saga last week. The installer, they canceled my appointments for no reason, and so this and this is why I want to mention this. The informant told me that they had bugged the modem, that they put something in the modem, a bug, to transmit. I imagine he didn't give me the details, but I imagine it would be to transmit the MAC address or the IP address via radio frequency short range. So the people in the houses next door, like the pretties or the ones on the back, could get the MAC address. So the same thing they're doing with the Xfinity tab, but now with the modem of Viasat. And he told me that's the reason why the appointment got canceled 3 times, because they needed to in time to bug the modem. They need to do the thing in the logistic chain. So that specific modem ended up in my house. It's not like they have all the modems bugged. They bug, in the case of Viasat at least, they bug specific modems. And they wanted to make sure that modem ended up at my house. So they needed time to make that happen. And this is a thing that I've known for a long time, and so much so that I have a metric for this, and it's documented in the website. I call it the unreasonable lead time metric. So there's a set of devices that I have bought over the years that have required an unreasonable amount of time to arrive to my home. When I used to buy things over the internet, I don't do that anymore, but back in the days, I've noticed that if I bought, I don't know, 2 routers, in one would arrive in next day, but the other one would arrive 14 days. Or a keyword, right? It would take. I bought one keyword once that took 3 months to be manufactured. And the reason is because they need the extra time to intercept the item or to manufacture it from scratch being bugged. Okay. The red Tesla is another example. That car took 6 months to be delivered because they were making sure they would put the torture device, all the things that they put in the car. So it takes time. Those things take time. And that time is visible, makes it visible. It affects the delivery time of the item. The Hastings Matrons, the same story. These Chesterfields that you're seeing behind me, they took 8 months to be delivered, something crazy like that, because they're very sophisticated espionage devices. So anyhow, that's why they canceled the appointments. It wasn't so much about blocking me, it was about bugging the modem. Okay. So mentioning that because maybe it's traceable. The installer finally came. Of course, the obvious question is, where are you going to install the antenna? Okay. So I picked this place, more or less in this corner. I'm not going to give the exact coordinates. They already have them. It doesn't really matter, but it's in this corner of the house. Okay. And the reason why I did it there is because I basically installed it in the same way that I saw Philip Denning installing his antennas in Lake Point Estates, like shadowed by the fence. This is a way that you avoid eavesdropping, because then the fence is a physical obstacle for this guy, for example, on the back to intercept, what the antenna is saying. They can always intercept the downlink, but the uplink is going to be more challenging for them now. So that's that. Now, sorry. Yeah, one second. Okay. Hello. Yeah, I'm having a bit of technical. Oh, yes. Okay. The camera is back. Okay. So yes, they can intercept the downlink, but it's going to be more challenging the uplink, right? Now, the orientation. I'm going to give all this data, so if authorities ever look at this, or if somebody's watching this, they have an advantage point. So I'm doing the same thing that they're doing. I'm also taking advantage of the buffer zone that they put on the back, this part.
that park is really a buffer zone against eavesdropping. That's how I know that the most important agents are in these streets over like this one. This is a very important agent because he doesn't have anybody next to him, just the park. But for that to work, you have to point the antenna in the opposite direction. So the downlink lands in the park. So my antenna, of course, is facing, this is my house. So my antenna, of course, is positioned in this corner and is facing towards the south, okay? So the only house that can really intercept my uplink would be, I think, these two houses, the 26707, maybe, depending. I don't know the technology they have. I don't know the sensitivity of their equipment. But maybe they're able to pull that off from there, or maybe this one. It is also possible. But the rest, I think, are pretty much handled. So the other thing I did, I built a sort of a wall, a fence here. So I bought materials and I posted the videos on YouTube about my trip to Lowe's because they sent an immense amount of high-level operatives to that Lowe's to intercept me, to download data from the box and all that. So all they got recorded in the camera. So that those recordings from yesterday, that was yesterday, I think would be a gold mine for authorities. Particularly, there is a guy in a roofing truck, red. That guy is very important. I strongly recommend authorities to look into that guy. It's very important. Not for me, for Josaro Cabello. So anyhow, I bought the materials and I basically built a fence right here, shadowing the antenna from the previous house, which is this one, 26718 Valleyside Drive, because they have these devices in the roof that are really sensors, and I think, they can sniff the antenna from there. So I built a tall fence, 6 feet tall, that shadows the entire antenna and makes that impossible. Okay. And of course, I'm gonna keep building I'm gonna basically make a vault for the antenna. Now, what's gonna happen next is that they're gonna send the HOA of Cinco Ranch 2 to harass me for that because we've gone through this before in 2022 and 2023 when I was using a Starlink and I was building shields around the antenna. What they would do is to send the HOA to send me harassment letters, the same thing they do at Lake Point State, forcing me, asking me to take down the protections of the antenna because of cosmetic reasons or architectural, that I need architectural approval, or when I try to put the gate in the main door here at Valleyside Drive, they also send me a letter forcing me to take it down. Like I've gone through this before. I know what's going to happen. So the next step in the harassment is going to be from the Cinco Ranch 2 to force me to take down the thing, which of course I'm not going to do. And it's going to happen the same thing that happened with the no trespassing sign at Lake Point State. I'm not going to take it down, and you're going to have to sue me. And then I'm going to enter into evidence all the geoindex and all the properties of everybody mentioned in that lawsuit. Okay. So that's how it's going to play out. Now, another interesting thing, I had the antenna installed in there last week, but I didn't really activate it. Now I'm using the antenna, by the way. And I have to say this. The only reason I'm not doing this, I'm not putting the antenna there for privacy. I know I cannot have any reasonably speaking, I cannot have any expectation of privacy with these people on top of me 24/7. That's not the reason I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I'm hoping that they intercept it and they commit more crimes and the FBI can catch them in the act. Okay. I don't need the antenna to defeat them. I can defeat them, as I think I've proven, even with them having my internet intercepted 24/7. Even with that, they cannot compete with me because I have the database of their crimes. That's the only reason. Like I have the database. So I have a weapon that they can fight against. So it doesn't matter to me if they listen to what I say 24/7. It doesn't really matter. But I put the antenna there, hoping they commit more crimes. Anyhow, when I put the antenna, I checked that there was nothing around the antenna. Okay. Now, interestingly, and this
the area is locked. I have a lock on the gate, okay, of the backyard, on the two gates. Now, when I started doing this work today, working on the antenna, magically, a black box that says ABC appeared right behind the antenna, but 30 centimeters behind, exactly where the beam from the satellite would come down to. There was a black box. I imagine they throw it over the fence, and it's disguised as a mouse trap. And that's another interesting point. I haven't. I used to have. I used to hire ABC. It's a pest control company many years ago. I discontinued their services, I think in 2021 or 2022, when I started suspecting that I was under surveillance. I started cutting accesses to people external to the house. But what's interesting now, remembering, like seeing this box there, I remember how insistent my former partner was about rodent protection. Like she always insisted that I hired ABC and that I kept this contract to protect against rats and rodents. And to be honest, like I didn't catch it at that point, but like now with what I know, I look back and it was stupid of me to believe that, because I lived in New York for many years, and New York is a city that is hundreds of years old. The sewer system is hundreds of years old, and it has a rodent problem. And I've never in my life in New York saw anybody having a mouse trap in their house or outside of their apartments. I never saw that. So why would that be needed in Katy, Texas? When these houses were all built less than, these houses were built in 2012. But in 2016, the house was 4 years old. How could it be prone to rodents infestation? I think the way I'm reading it now is that it was a deliberate move to make me hire ABC so these people would have access to the backyard to install sensors to allow all these agents to intercept my cell phone communications. And I think that black box that they put behind the antenna in the last 5 days is a sensor to basically catch what's coming down with the right angle. Because now they have the problem that I'm using Viasat, which is a different technology. It's a static satellite in the sky. It's not like a Starlink where they have 7,000 satellites that could intercept what you're talking. And the satellites, the Starlink satellites, are on the other direction. So they will never shadow the antenna, the view of the antenna to the satellite. So they cannot even use them to intercept that antenna. Because if they passed over the path, they could intercept the signals using the same Starlink satellites that they own. But because they're in a different path, they can't do that. So what they have to do now is to plant sensors right next to the antenna, either on my side of my backyard or on their backyard. But that's why I'm going to build that vault so in a way that they can't eavesdrop anything. If they can catch anything, it's only the downlink, which I can control. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess with that, I think that covers the legal updates that I had, and there was one more thing that the informant told me, but I didn't note it here. I have to review my notes. I have other set of notes. Oh yes, this is important. So the informant told me that apparently Michael Pretty, so the Russian agent of 26714 Valley Side Drive, Katy, Texas 77494, and Sarah Pretty, the female agent, and they're tied to Citgo directly. He's employed or was employed by Citgo. The informant told me that they have another house on the street on the back on Cedardale. So one of these houses on Cedardale Pines Drive is really controlled or used as a safe house, maybe, right? By the Pretties. This is what the informant told me. I haven't, but remembering, like I know, and this is noted in the journal entries of the website, like the older ones. Like I wrote some entries like in 2022. And in one occasion, I noticed that at that time, right, when I was just waking up to the surveillance, I
never before then drove on Cedardale Pines Drive. I never used that street. I always came to my house using Lara Creek or Valley Side. Okay. But when I started waking up, I started changing my routes. And in one occasion, the first time I took Cedardale Pines, I think the first or the second time in my life, I saw the red Tesla of Michael Pretty parked in this house that would be diagonal to me on the backside. And when I come in the corner, he quickly got into his car, turned on the corner, and then came to his house and parked in the driveway. At the time, I thought that he was just visiting another spy on the back because they're friends. They work, they're colleagues. It's like when I was at Google, I could go to have coffee with Michael because we work together. I imagine the same situation. And this agent on the back, he has another house in Louisiana, close to the house in Louisiana of Michael Pretty. So they worked together in Louisiana before, is what I'm saying. And they were both brought here around 2021 when I created Key Opinion Leaders. So anyhow, this happened probably 2021, 2022, that I saw him there, which supposedly they don't know each other. That's what they say the word, that they are disconnected. But he took the car and then drove to his house. But what the informant is telling me that he has a house in the back, my understanding maybe was not correct at the time. What I thought, my suspicion, that he was visiting a colleague, maybe he owns that house or he controls that house as well. And he just has two different points from where to harass me. That's how it works. So it seems it would make more logical sense that they use the same harasser from two different points rather than having two harassers, because that doubles the risk. Two people are more likely to make a mistake than one. So I think that's intuitively, right? Knowing how they operate, I think it makes more sense than what I thought originally, that these were two people and the one was visiting the other. Maybe he controls the two houses. And maybe that's why when I woke up more to this, and then they changed the roof of his house and all that, then I stopped seeing him. He disappeared. He didn't really disappear. He just moved to the house to the street on the back. And he has kept working on this little project of his all this time, but from the back. So it's reasonable. I see it as a possibility. Let's put it that way. All right. So with that, I'm going to close this session. But remember, I have the antenna there. So now, with what I know, I understand that this street where I am right now, it's a prime location for me because it's very hard to intercept, because they made it that way to protect themselves, but they're also protecting me in that way. The reason I say that is because it's a very short street. They can't pull that trick of the vehicles traveling perpendicularly, because the car has to come on this corner and then has to reduce the speed tremendously, and the same thing here. So they can pull that trick, and the street is very narrow. So by the time I turn on and turn off my cell phone, the opportunity is gone. So they can do that. They could drive a car on the back, but then they have all these barriers. All these houses are acting as a physical barrier for my signal. So they can get it that way. And the same with the satellite. Like, now the antenna is here. Now the only possibility they have is to drive a car at constant speed on Cedardale Pines Drive to try to catch the downlink. That's the only possibility they have now, or a plane to catch eventually or occasionally the uplink. That doesn't last very long. It's not a continuous interception as they have with Xfinity. Now, I asked the informant to see if we could try to flip one of the agents on the back to put a dash cam to monitor that street. He told me that he's going to try. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to happen. But if I'm able to monitor that street, I think it would be checkmate, because then I will get the Pretty, and I will get the people intercepting, trying to catch the downlink of the antenna. But now I have these huge buffers on the back. I think
I think this is actually a better location than Lake Point Estates, strategically speaking. That's why I'm staying here. Yes, the house is bought to the core, but my communications are stronger here than at Lake Point Estate because I'm protected by all these features that they put here for this. Anyhow, let's yeah, I'm gonna end this session here, but I'll make another one, and yeah, please read the book. I've been working very hard on that, and I publish it electronically. It has its own ISBN number. That's the unique identifier for books. I would like to verbally give you the identifier. No, I will post it in the notes, I think, because let me see if I can do it. Yeah, I think I can do it. 1 second. Yes. So there's a couple of links that you can use to get to the book. They're posted in the YouTube channel in the description of the channel. But I'm going to tell you how I have it organized here. Okay. So if you click on that link, what you will see is basically this. Okay. And in this folder, you have the book translated to all these languages. I think it's 30 languages at this point, if I'm not mistaken. But so if you click on English, for example, you will be able to see it, download it for free. And the ISBN number, which is important because it shows that there is already a published work, right? Cannot be censored with that sham censorship clause that they put on that order. So the ISBN number is 979-8-999-6847-0-7. That's for the electronic version of the book, the ebook, okay? I also have an audiobook that you can listen to it if you don't want to, you don't have the time to read all that content. For now, I have it posted on the Call Mobile channel, but I will also post it in other places. So here, if you go to playlists, you will see this is the book. So right now it's in Spanish, but I'll post the English audiobook today as well. But for now, it's the Spanish. So it's basically has 6 parts, and they're separated by, so each video is a different part of the book, and they're sorted by order, okay? But if you want to have the electronic version, you can just download it from the description link in the channel. And then it's available in more languages in the written form, in Arabic, Russian, Spanish, of course, Portuguese, French, Italian, anything. My goal is to distribute this to as many people as I can. I mean, this information. And with this set of languages, I think it would cover around 81% of the world population who could have access to this if they find it. Right now, the challenge is making it findable for them. Because, of course, they control Google and they control Bing and they control the search engine, so they can bury it that way. But I guess 1 step at a time, baby steps. First step is make it available. I'll figure out how to make it findable. So yeah, please take a look at the book, because they're trying to censor it for a good reason for them. So you don't give them that pleasure. Read the book. Thank you so much for your time, and till the next one.